Streaming worldwide from the Plymouth Sports Network studios in Plymouth Falls, it's time for the KSN Underground Podcast with Brandon Gailey.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome back to the KSN Underground Podcast. I am Brandon Gailey, the publisher of Plymouth Sports Network, inviting you to join me this Wednesday evening as we talk sports in the Klamath Basin. In today's episode, we're talking Vikes with Coach Lease as we take a look back at their victory against North Valley. We look ahead to this week's matchup against Hidden Valley, and we discuss the current status of the Vikings. In the Gaucho Collective feature interview, we visit with Brandon Gailey. Brandon is the senior captain and Runningback for the Mazama Vikings. We talk about how he got started, what he does pregame, his plans after high school, and he answers our 10 rapid-fire questions. Today's episode is brought to you by the members of the Klamath Sports Network family, the KS Insiders. More on them in just a moment. Recently, I was asked, if I was not doing this, what would I be doing? It got me pondering and thinking about that, about what we got going on, where we are, what we've been doing, the podcast, everything that's going on, sports, news, where things have come. Shortly after that, one of those Facebook memories popped up, and it was a 10-year ago deal. And man, where we were, where I was, where my family was 10 years ago versus where it is today is so completely different. I would imagine it's that way for a lot of people out there. You know, where have you guys, where are you? If you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would you be doing? Let me know in the comments. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or somewhere where there's comments, let me know. I'm curious of that as well. But as most of you know, I'm the publisher of Klamath Falls News, Klamath Sports Network, Cascade Firewatch. I do photography, art, sports, as well as stock photos that you may not have known of. I'm on 2 professional boards here in the basin, the Chamber Board of Directors, as well as the Fair Board. But if I wasn't doing all of that, I'd probably be back doing what I was doing before it all, which was corporate marketing. I was doing marketing, went to school for marketing and business management. That's probably where I would be. What would you be doing? I also asked the same question to our guest today. I asked Coach Lease if he was not athletic director at Mazama or our head football coach for the Vikings, what would he be doing? I was actually quite surprised by his answer. And I also asked our featured interview guest, Brandon, the same questions. If he was not active in sports and doing what he's doing, what would he be doing as well? But first, I want to thank our sponsor for this episode, you, our KS Insiders. You might be asking, who is a KS Insider? A KS Insider is a financial supporter of Klamath Sports Network. I can hear you now. Shit, he wants money. Before you tune me out, listen to this. KS Insider is a way for fans to support what is done here on Klamath Sports Network, because without your support, content and shows like KSN Underground would not exist. Anyone can be a KS Insider, especially if you love high school athletics. Parents and family of players? Check. Fans of a school or program? Check. Fans of what we do here at Klamath Sports Network? Check. People with a pulse? Check. I invite you to help by pledging as little as $5 per month. Every little bit helps keep me caffeinated and fuel in the tank to cover those road games. For more information, visit klamathsports.net and click on the yellow button at the top of the page that says Become a KS Insider. Our program is managed via the Patreon platform. There is no obligation for you to sign up. You can cancel at any time. Pledges start at $5 per month. Content like this cannot be made without support from people like you. Thank you. Now, on to the show. And we got a lot of show here for you today. We're going to get right into it with Talkin Vikes. I welcome you back to the KSN Underground Podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in and listening to our show this Wednesday evening as it gets published. Up next in Talkin Vikes, we're going to speak with Coach Vic Lease, as we have all season. Coach is going to give us information about his breakdown on Hidden Valley, going to give us his scouting report, what to expect from the Mustangs. We also discuss the 49-0 win over North Valley, the Knights of North Valley, what the Vikings did right, what they can still improve on. They're still a growing team, an improving team. What did they learn from that game? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the status of the Vikes, of what's going on inside the team. Thanks for being on the show again, Coach.
Absolutely.
Last week, you guys faced North Valley. You guys a little impressive out there. 49-0 win. It was 35-0 at halftime. What was the vibe in the locker room then?
We executed pretty well in the first half. Especially defensively, all the game plan, we got after them pretty good. We knew they would be in their wing tee offense, and we figured they'd try to spread us out in the second half, and they did. They went to an empty set. The boys just, played the way they were coached, which that's what we expect out of them.
Second half, you were up big time. Defense was holding them strong. You let some JVs come out and play. What is that for you as a coach to let your JVs come out and get some reps?
Yeah, we were hoping that would be the case, that we could get some younger kids in there. And it's good to see them out there flying around, seeing the future of Mazama out there on the field on a Friday night under the light. It's fun. The kids had a great time. It's a good experience for them. So when you got your young kids out there, you pretty much know the game is well in hand. And it felt good. It felt good to give them some reps.
We're 2/3 of the way through the season now. A couple more games to go. Big game this weekend. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But your defense has been looking really, really strong. You got 3 wins in a row right now. The last 2, the defense has held extremely well. 21 points in the last 10 quarters. Can you talk a bit about your defense?
Coach Fullerton just does a great job on that side of the ball. Spends a lot of time looking at film, studying his opponent, looking at past years, the coaches and what they like to do, what their offensive coordinators like to do. And he just has every week he puts a game plan together on how we're going to defend our opponents, and he just does an outstanding job. His biggest task during the week is getting our kids to know our opponent as well as he does. And typically by Thursday, at the end of practice on Thursday, our kids do, and it shows on Friday night.
It certainly have shown the last few weeks, that's for sure. Speaking of your kids, you got some firepower out there this year. Van Gastel, Anderson has stepped up in the absence of Heaton. Galey, Kent, Aguiar, Brody Hubble has looked really good this year, as well as your guys on the line, Yancey, Tramp, and Pena. Who has stood out to you so far this season as kind of like your midseason MVP?
You named a lot of players that just flat get after it for us. We don't have an MVP. We really don't. All these kids contribute. We've been able to call upon different kids at different times, and that's a blessing. We're not one-dimensional. Last Friday night, I really called on Brandon Gailey to step up and perform, and he did that. 2 weeks ago, it was Van Gastel at quarterback, and he did that. And before that, it was Trevor Anderson. So, we've been able to call upon these kids at different times, and they've been able to step up. And when their number's called, they embrace that. We've been able to do different things. We've been able to get after our opponents utilizing different weapons, and we're going to continue to do that. It just makes us better offensively, that they can't focus on one individual. They have to defend everything. There's an old saying that to defend everything is to defend nothing, and that's what we want to force teams to do, is to defend everything. We look at their defenses and what they're trying to take away from us, and, it's a chess match. We try to find what they're going to give us, and we take what they're going to give us.
Coach, that is some fantastic stuff right there. That actually is got to be setting you up for potentially a postseason run as well. If you got all this talent that's set up and established and waiting for their number to be called, the defense that you're going to be facing really won't know who is going to be getting their number called.
Right. And, depending on what films they have on us, too, we could be in the flex, we could be in bone, we could give them a different look, a 3-back look to a single-back look in the backfield. So, throwing the football, running the football, who is going to run the football, who is going to catch the football. So our offense is a way more dynamic than people give us credit for. They just think that we're just run and dive. You can hear it all the time. Coaches on the sideline, just stop the dive. Well, go ahead. We got a lot of weapons. So, and we've improved greatly since the beginning of the year. We have a foundation and we build from that foundation, and we do that every year. This year, we had shorter time to put that in place. We've rapidly improved over the last few weeks, unlike years past where we've had camp. We've had practice in June, and we've been able to go to a camp and get things installed during that time, and then we come in August, hit the ground running. But this year was not like that. And we come in August, and we have a lot to work on because, we had so many kids graduate. First and foremost, we had to figure out personnel before we could start doing the things that we needed to do offensively and defensively and special teams. And now we're hitting our stride. It's kind of fun to watch with this group.
Now, there's no better time to be hitting your stride going into maybe the biggest game so far this season. Is you've got Hidden Valley in Grants Pass and Murphy over there. You and they are both undefeated in Skyline, 2-0. You're both tied for first. Winner for this week will be in sole position of first place in the Skyline with 2 weeks to go. This is kind of for Mazama when looking ahead. You got Phoenix and KU coming up. Hidden Valley's got North Valley and Hindley coming up. This is kind of a Skyline championship on the line, isn't it?
I don't want to take anything away from Phoenix and KU. We got to play those games, and these games will be played on Friday night, and we got to take care of business, but we're going to focus in on Friday night and get after Hidden Valley. I mean, that's what we do. We take it week by week, day by day, and we're not going to look past them. We definitely know what's on the line. The boys know what's on the line. You're absolutely correct. We're both undefeated in the Skyline Conference. They've already played KU and Phoenix. We have yet to play KU and Phoenix. We'll see.
We talked a bit last year as well. You were thinking they were going to be the tough team for you last year. I don't believe we got to face them last year. But what's your scouting report on them this year? How are they looking? Who are we watching out for?
They're a good football team. They have some weapons. They lost an outstanding quarterback to injury, from what I understand, and they've had to put some different kids at quarterback. They kind of run like a little wildcat set where they'll put a running back at quarterback and do some things out of it. Noah Stone is their first quarterback. Daniel Imizu, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. I apologize if that's not correct. He also gets in that quarterback spot, will run and throw out of multiple positions for him. Daniel's a pretty good football player. He's a good-sized kid. He's 5'11", 195 pounds, and he's a physical runner. Noah is very athletic, Noah Stone, and he's a little bit smaller than Daniel, but faster for sure. James Elmore, he's another running back, number 22. He's a junior. He's a little bigger kid. They have some good-sized running backs, and so we're going to have to defend the run. That's one of those things that we pride ourselves in, defending the run. So it's going to be a nice physical match on Friday night. They have good-sized linemen up front. They have a couple of kids that are, one's 250 and one's 245. So we're going to be the matchups pretty evenly up front. It's them offensively. They have a tall kid at the edge, Zach Alderman, but they're not throwing as much as they have in the past. They really are focusing on the run. They have a new head coach, came out of the Portland area. He was at Glencoe for a while, and he's kind of given them a different look offensively. Defensively, they got 3 defensive linemen that have started for them for a couple of years up front, and they're going to be a handful. One's 245, one's 285, and the other one's 230.
That's some big boys.
Yeah, they're really good size up front, and they're physical. They get after it. So they got some pretty good linebackers, some DBs that cover, and it's gonna be a good match. They've won a number of football games this year, and they've had some success. I believe it's in the last 3 seasons, including this one, they've only lost 2 football games. So they went undefeated in the spring season this last year, and then they've lost 1 game this year, and they lost the state championship at the 3A level 3 years ago. So they've lost 2 games. So they've won, they've had some success, and they're going to have confidence coming in. We look forward to the challenge.
You mentioned that there's an injured quarterback on their side. They got a couple of guys that are stepping up. You're going to have to protect against the run. Is that what Mazama needs to do this Friday to secure the win, is to defend that run and force some throws that may come with poor decisions?
Yes, that's exactly what we need to do. We need to force them to throw the football, and they're going to want to run. They're good size. They got tough running backs. They're going to want to run the football, and they've been effective running the football on their past opponent. They had a lot of yards on the ground last Friday night against KU, and I believe they had one of the young men have scored 4 touchdowns in that game. We're going to have to defend the run. We do that fairly well. Cascade is a great running football team. They gave us some issues. I think we've gotten some things straightened out, and I think we'll be ready for them.
Coach, I just have one thing left to ask you. I'm going to switch the gears up just a little bit. Our theme of the show this week is if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing? So the question I'm going to ask you is, if you weren't the AD of Mazama and you weren't head coach of the football program, what would you be doing?
When I was younger, I thought I'd want to be at a career in the military. My dad is a military man. My grandfather was a military man, and both were veterans. My grandfather was a World War II veteran. My father was a Vietnam veteran. I thought I'd, possibly have a career in the military, but I really don't see myself doing anything else. I believe that certain people are meant to do certain things, and being an athletic director and head football coach, I believe I was meant to do that. I love it. I love coming to work every day and coaching these boys. I just don't see myself doing anything else.
And to be honest with you, I couldn't see you doing anything else either. But the military is kind of an interesting direction. I wouldn't have expected that. I didn't know your past with your family there. So thank you for their service and everything like that. And I appreciate what you're doing here for Mazama as well.
Thank you.
Much appreciation to Coach Vic Lease for taking the time out of his busy day to talk to us here on the KSN Underground podcast. Hey, if you've got any questions for Coach Lease or anything we can address on Talkin Viks, send me an email. It's info@klamathsportsnetwork.com, info@klamathsportsnetwork.com. I'd love to hear what you have, what your questions are for Coach Lease. We got a few more weeks of talking with him, and then we're going to start talking basketball as we start to move into winter sports, as well as any postseason football. There's going to be quite a bit of action going on over the next few weeks. Located at 11th and Main in downtown Klamath Falls, Gaucho Collective provides a fun and modern atmosphere for business owners and freelancers looking to grow their current presence or expand out of a home office.
Gauchos are diverse,
including those from higher education, internet and web development, photography, and marketing, just to name a few. Gaucho Collective engages entrepreneurs in ways that traditional offices cannot, through an open concept with a variety of semi-private and private spaces to suit all your business and collaborative needs. Amenities include flexible workspace options, fast and secure internet, document printing, kitchenette, utilities, conference room, hot coffee, and so much more.
Gaucho is even a great option for students looking to study off campus.
Community, collaboration, co-working. Your new office is waiting at Gaucho Collective. Learn more and become a member at gauchocollective.com. That's gauchocollective.com. Welcome back, sports fans, to the Klamath Sports Network Underground podcast on this chilly Wednesday, October evening. It is now time for our featured interview. It is the Gaucho Collective feature interview. We're going to talk with Brandon Gailey from our surrogate studio and sponsor of Gaucho Collective. Hey, if you've not been down there, corner of 11th and Main, check them out. It's a really pretty neat place. You've probably just heard their commercial there. Gaucho's got a lot of things going on, especially for those that may be looking to expand where they're working or need a quiet place instead of the home office. Check them out, gauchocollective.com. Now, our featured guest is Brandon Gailey. He's a senior from Mazama High School. He's the halfback. He's one of two halfbacks for Mazama Football. Just last week, he had 2 touchdowns on 8 carries and an interception against North Valley. He's also a sprinter on Mazama's track team, as well as high-altitude track and field. Brandon is also a 2-time state champion. Last year, he was part of the Mazama Vikings that won the state title in the Oregon 4A. He is also a member of the Mazama State Championship 4x100 relay team that won over in Florence, Oregon this past spring. Brandon is also an honor roll student taking advanced classes at Mazama High School. Welcome, Brandon.
Thank you for having me.
So how long have you been playing football?
I started my freshman year, so this year will be 4 years.
Why football? Why have you been playing?
I've always had an interest in football as a kid, and I've always wanted to play. So I just simply Coach Lease his coaching staff came to Brixner my 8th grade year. I was like, I have to play. I just have to. Whether mom and dad says yes, I don't care. I'll do anything to play, and that's exactly what I did. So
you were hooked from day one.
Yeah. I knew that Coach Lease would be the coach I would want to play for. I didn't really know much else about any other coaches, but I really liked Coach's win mentality, where he wants to win, obviously, but he hates to lose more, and he will do anything to not lose. He won't do anything to win. He'll do anything to not lose, and I respected that very much.
He has definitely got a different coaching style and philosophy when it comes to things, but he's still, he's a grizzly bear on the outside, but he's a teddy bear on the inside.
Oh, yeah. He's very much so that way.
Very cool dude. Get a chance to talk to him every week, and I very greatly appreciate it. Brandon, what positions have you played since freshman year?
Everything. If you can name it, I played it. My freshman year, I started at outside linebacker, the SAM position. Still my favorite position on defense, but I guess my speed is better utilized in other positions. On offense, it's been the same pretty much. I've played halfback, whether that's 2-back or 4-back. just halfback in general has been my thing. On defense, though, it's quite literally everything. I've played D-line in a blue-white scrimmage. I played middle backer as a safety when we're in that Braveheart formation. DB has been my most consistent thing when I've been playing on varsity, simply because of my speed and athleticism. But yeah, I played everything. And I'll play anything as hard as I can because I just get after it. I like to make people break, so to speak.
Brandon's our player of the week this week, our athlete of the week, because of his game last week against North Valley. Coach had some really great words about your performance last week, and I say, quote from Coach Lease, "He's just a leader. He was voted team captain. I can call on him to do anything, play running back, play defensive back, be a returner. He's just a versatile kid. He's super smart, athletic, physical, and just an outstanding leader." What does that make you think about Coach Lease when he talks about you like
that? I don't really like to talk about myself very much. I kind of just let everyone else do what their thing, and then whatever opinions come at me is just opinions. But to hear credit from Coach Lease feels especially good because I've worked very, very hard for this team in our 0 period weight training class with the team, and in practice, I try to give 110% as much as I can just to make the team better. So to finally have a game where not only myself, where I could see myself play at my best, but other people could see me play at my best as well was very good.
Well, you were spectacular that game, whether you want to give yourself credit or not. You did have an opportunity to step up. I know there was a few injuries that allowed that to happen, but you were their next player up. You were there and looked great. And I'm not just saying that because I'm your dad. And yes, this podcast is a father-son podcast here today. We're going to talk about that, the elephant in the room. Brandon is not on the show here today because of that relationship, but rather his performance as an athlete at Mazama High School. Now, going back to captains, Coach mentioned it in that quote. You are a captain for the Mazama Vikings. You were elected by your peers. What does that mean to you to have your peers say, hey, we want him to represent us?
That is probably the single greatest achievement of my life. I've done a lot of things. I've won state championships. Like I said, I've worked incredibly, incredibly hard for this team. And for everyone to recognize my commitment for this team and recognize what I've done and see me as a leader was very special. When Coach Lease announced the captains at one of our practices, he announced Nate Tramp, then Daniel Yancey, and I was like, who's it going to be? And I was crossing my fingers like, I'm not religious at all. I even prayed to God, please I want this so bad. And he said my name, and it was one of the best moments of my life right then and there, because knowing that the team sees me in that way is just one of the best feelings I've ever had.
Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about your pregame routine. What do you do just before the game? Are you the guy that's got the headphones on, trying to tune out the world? Do you go sneak off to a quiet place? Are you hyping up the rest of the team? Take me through your pregame.
Well, fortunately for me, the coaches and the other captains do a good job of the hype up. I'm very, very quiet, and I'll do my own thing. And I don't mean to like not be there as a captain, or I'm just like doing my own thing on an island or anything, but that's just how I focus. And the team knows that. I made sure they knew that. But sometimes I listen to music, sometimes I don't. It just varies on what I'm feeling. I'll usually have an energy drink. I'll shotgun a Red Bull or drink a G Fuel, something that'll get me going before the game other than just adrenaline. But I listen to Japanese rock. I listen to like anime intros and outros to get me going, which sounds weird as hell, but it gets me going. So I don't care what other people think. But when I'm not listening to music, I'm kind of just appreciating the moment. I look at the players. I see them prepare. I'll recognize that this moment will never happen again. And it's coming to an end soon. And so I take that gratitude and I make sure I appreciate those little moments. I care for that for this team very much. Even the freshmen who are coming in, I care for every single one of them. And so I'm trying to make sure I remember as much as I can.
You mentioned you talked to you're thinking about the younger classmen, the underclassmen, the freshmen that are yet to come in, maybe those 8th graders. You're thinking about them all. It's a big brotherhood, no matter what level you're at. It's not just varsity. What would you say to those young guys coming in, those young men coming in as a freshman, or maybe the freshman looking to go JV this year, or next year, I should say? What would you say to those guys as a piece of advice?
Football is a grind. It really is. And you have to recognize that, and it's going to sound brutal, it's going to sound honest, but no one cares if you're hurt. No one cares if you're sick. But if you're the best athlete on the field, they're going to put you on the field. There's not any babying. There's nothing like that. You just got to be ready when your time comes, and you got to be the best athlete on the field. Coach Fullerton tells us before each game that when we walk onto that field, we are the baddest mother effer on the field. And he doesn't care if we are the third string backup or we're the all-state returning varsity athlete. We are the baddest person on that field. You just got to have that mentality. You got to recognize that when your time comes, you got to embrace the moment, enjoy the moment, take a deep breath because it's going to be all right. I mean, I know that my first real varsity experience was against the number 1 team in the state, Marshfield. I'm glad that I was on kickoff and kick return and all that, or else my nerves would have been shot because it was a wild experience. Varsity football is so much different than it is on JV or freshman, and all it takes is one game to recognize that. Just recognize that you need to shine when your time comes, but don't overthink it. Do what you've been coached to do. Listen to the coaches when they tell you certain things. Listen to the calls, communicate, it's the little things in football that make the biggest differences.
We talked about it with Coach last week. It's the fundamentals. If you don't have the fundamentals down, you can't really do anything else. And you say it's the little things. Is it beyond fundamentals for you with the little things?
Coach Fullerton always tells us before each game. Coach Fullerton tells us a lot of stuff before each game. He tells us 5 bad things will happen to you in this game. Well, how you react to those bad things is what will determine your success. And you really have to take that to heart because I've had false start penalties. I've had holding penalties. I've dropped the game-winning pass against Cascade, but that didn't change my mentality. You just recognize that it happened and move on in that moment. And it's incredibly, incredibly difficult to do, especially when you're, a star athlete or something, and you have that expectation for you to play well, and you have that expectation on yourself to play well. But you just have to focus and let the moment go and just turn the page, as we say, and focus on the next play. And when something bad happens, you go back to the fundamentals. You think about your block on the next play. You think about where you're going, where you need to be, your alignment, what you need to do correctly to make the play as best as possible as you can. Then once you get, comfortable again, then you can be the star athlete. Then you can make plays. But it's all mentality. One of the reasons why I like football is simply because it's mentally challenging. I wouldn't even say the physical or even spiritual part of football is that difficult, really. It's all mentality. I enjoy beating teams the most when we mentally break them. And you can definitely see at the end of the game when their heads are down, when they're not trying on defense or anything. That's my satisfaction. That's when I know we've beaten a team.
Well, I have to say, looking back to last week against North Valley, I think you guys did that about halfway through the third quarter when the JVs scored on North Valley and went up 49-0.
They're still a good team. They're 5-1. You can't put them down or anything. I think more than North Valley playing bad or North Valley not playing to what they expected to play, I think it was just people finally saw what Mazama football is capable of. We are really starting to figure things out. We are really starting to things into gear. That's just a taste of what Mazama football can be this year, because even as good as we played against North Valley, there were still tons of mistakes, and we are getting better every single week. Every single week, you can expect a much better and much improved Mazama football team.
Well, speaking of much and better and much improved, looking into this Friday, you guys travel over to Hidden Valley to take on the Mustangs. What are you personally doing to prepare to get ready for that?
I just follow the coach's game plan. We get game scripts on film and what to look at, what to look out for, and I'll just watch that and do what I need to do as a player. I take each team each week with the same extreme sincerity of they could beat us. It doesn't matter if it's Phoenix or if it's Marshfield. Any team could beat us on any given day. So I can't, treat them any differently. So I prepare the same, take the film that coach makes us look at the same. It's all about mental repetitions because we can only practice so much. We can only see the plays on scout teams so much. You really have to watch film and mentally prepare yourself for what you'll see on game day. And every week, that's what I do.
State championship. Let's talk about that for just a moment. State championship. You are a state championship in the 4x100 in track, as well as with football last year in the spring season. You played Marist in the championship. When the clock strikes 0 and you guys are victorious, what's going through your head?
I was very proud of the seniors. They worked very hard for that moment. I'm not one to celebrate. I'm not one to get excited. I mean, at the North Valley game, when I had my couple touchdowns, when I had my interception, I wasn't excited at all. I wasn't jumping up and down or anything. My teammates look at me like, dude, get excited. Like, celebrate a little bit. I'm like, I am having fun. I'm excited. Like, I'm very stoic when it comes to things like that. And that's exactly how it was after the state championship. Like, obviously, I was happy that we won, but I don't know. I still felt like I had things to prove, and I wasn't done yet. And so it was great to have those seniors have their moment, but my moment hasn't come yet. And this season is my moment, and I'm trying to make the most of it by bringing another state championship back to Mazama football.
That is absolutely awesome. And I can totally see that out of your work ethic.
Even though I wasn't a starter for that team, my contributions for that team were still very felt. And I know that because the captains told me, the coaches told me, if there's a star athlete on the opponent that we're going to face, I was that guy. I was the person that would give our defense the most amount of trouble. I would work our defense's butt off every single practice. And it always made me feel good because on a Tuesday practice, the first time we really get into pads and see the scout team offense play, I would always torch the starting defense. The reason why that feels good is because on Thursday, when we're doing a pregame, the defense would torch me. And so I understood that I made that team better. Every single week, I felt like I helped the team win that football game, even though I wasn't on the field Friday night. And I felt the same way in the state championship.
The thing about football is it's definitely a team sport. Whether you start or not, you're there as a member of the team helping out, right? It takes everybody to get together. And in your case, you played that star athlete.
I solely believe 100% without a doubt in my mind that a varsity football team will only be as good as their scout team. If the scout team isn't playing to what they should be playing and giving the defense a good look, then on Friday night, that's exactly what's going to happen. You know, the opponent is going to run it up. That's just how it is. So for a good scout, every state championship caliber team needs a good scout team. And fortunately for us, this year, I feel like we have just as good as a scout team, if not better. So I'm very pleased at that. I'm very hard on the scout. I'm harder on the scout team players than I am on the starters. Simply because I know what it takes on scout team to really push the defense. If they're not playing to what they are capable of playing, then we will lose Friday night. And I know that. So I try to push them as hard as I can to make sure that we will win that football game. Every game is a must win, no matter if it's, number 1 or number 32 in the state. Every game is a must win.
Taking a look here, switching up gears again a little bit. Talk post high school. You are turning 18 this week. As a matter of fact, at your game over at Hidden Valley, you're going to be that's your 18th birthday. This is your senior year. You're just a few months away from graduation. Do you have plans to continue athletics on in college or at university level?
I mean, I'm always looking at what opportunity comes my way, but my first instinct is no. I just feel like I've accepted that high school has been my athletic experience. And if that's where it ends, then so be it. I mean, that's just, the natural order of things, if that's the way it goes. I'll miss it, of course, miss athletics. But, everything has to come to an end at some point. And if this is where it comes to an end, then I'm okay with it. But I'm always looking for there's an offer I can't refuse or something like that. And I'll look into that. But first, plans after high school are to take a trip to Chicago and visit my friend. And then after that, I'm going to join the Dutch Mafia. I work for Dutch Bros as a barista. And their mafia opens up stands in other states and works in other states, sees different cities and all that. And that'll be my traveling experience, and that's where I'll figure out to live and where I'll do my future endeavors. And then for career-wise, I just have an interest in like affiliate marketing and flipping real estate and all of those aspects. That's what I plan on doing if college doesn't happen.
So any recruiters out there listening, Brandon's all ears, and if not, he's got a backup plan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. This episode's actually kind of got a theme to it, Brandon. We'd ask Coach the same question. I have answered the same thing earlier in the podcast. If you were not playing football or running track, what would you be doing?
Not band, that's for sure. Not choir either. I honestly never even thought about that ever. I've always seen myself as an athletic type, and so I don't really know what I would be doing.
Would you focus on a different sport?
I don't really like any other sport. I'd maybe do baseball. My love for that died a few years ago, so probably not. I probably wouldn't do any other sport, simply because football and track. I feel like if I were to do another sport, I would already be doing it. And so if I'm not doing it now, I wouldn't do it if I wasn't doing track or football. So I'd probably just, live the normal high school life of a non-athlete.
So, Brandon, it's time for the Gaucho Collective rapid fire questions. All the people in the hot seat that has been where you are this season has answered these questions. We got 10 questions for you. You can't think about the answers. It's just what comes to the top of your mind. You ready?
Sure.
All right. Ducks or Beavers?
Ducks.
Favorite pro team?
49ers.
Favorite pro athlete?
DeAnthony Thomas.
And what's up with DeAnthony Thomas?
He's a speedster. He plays exactly how I like to play. I don't remember the years he played, but it was like early 2010s. And I just remember watching him play, and it was just, DeAnthony Thomas runs down the sideline, and no one can catch him. Like, that's what I've always wanted to experience in my own football games.
Who do you most admire?
I never know the answer to this question because I don't really. I'll say I admire Usain Bolt because he's a world-renowned track athlete, and everyone knows him for his, crazy money and speed and all that. But like the people that, or the things that people don't really look into is his rags to riches story. He really came from nothing, but he ended up being, the world's fastest man ever. That rags to riches story of that amount of success from coming from nearly nothing is truly impressive to me.
What's your most disliked food?
Vegetables.
Just vegetables in general?
Oh, yeah.
Any particular one?
No, all of them.
All of them, he says. Disneyland or Six Flags?
I mean, I don't really like amusement parks because I don't know, I just feel like it's kind of the same thing over and over again. But I'll say Disneyland because at least there's still an experience with Disneyland with the rides. But with Six Flags, you kind of just ride rides.
What would be your dream car?
A Tesla Model X.
And as a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A firefighter. When I was in kindergarten, we had this assignment where we drew our future career paths, and I drew a firefighter. Why? Who knows? I do not remember. But a firefighter was definitely something I wanted to be as a little kid.
Does that still interest you today?
Probably not. Probably not.
Next question, chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate. I get sick when I eat chocolate, but vanilla just freaking sucks.
Brandon, last question, who is your biggest fan?
Probably my mom. She always gets upset when she can't come to my games for whatever reason. But she'll always watch on the TV if she can't go. But if she's in the bleachers and the grandstands, there's always that one. Let's go, Brandon! Okay, Mom, pipe it down a little bit.
You can pick her out from the crowd.
Yeah, I usually can't hear the crowd at all unless I'm on the sideline. But then you always hear that. Let's go, Brandon! It's like, okay, Mom, I get it. You're there. But no, it's probably Mom.
Well, she's listening to this. What would you say to her right now?
I'd say don't worry so much because I can take care of myself. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. She just infinitely worries about me all the time because I will walk or hobble at home from the boo-boos I get from football or something. And she'll be like, oh, do I need to do something for you to do? Give me your laundry. I'll do your laundry for you. I was like, no, Mom, it's okay. It's okay, Mom, I got it. It's okay. Just relax a little bit, Mom. I can take care of myself. You don't need to work so hard.
Brandon, I want to thank you for chatting with me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to wish you luck this Friday at Hidden Valley against the Mustangs, and happy 18th birthday a little early.
Thank you.
That was Brandon Gailey on the Gaucho Collective feature interview. Much appreciation to Brandon for coming on today's show and talking about his sports and high school life. If you've got a guest suggestion, email me, info@climatesportsnetwork.com. I'd love to hear who you would recommend and who you would like to hear on the KSN Underground podcast. Stay tuned. We're not done just yet. Coming up just after the break, we're going to be talking about what's happening in the Oregon 4A as well as the Skyline Conference.
Need some extra spending money? Want to be active and stay connected to the games you love? Become an athletic official. It's easy. Visit www.newofficials.org. With the recent decline of a number of officials, we need you now. It is your opportunity to give back to the Oregon high school sports community. Be part of the OSAA's statewide sportsmanship initiative. Don't delay. Become an official today. www.newofficials.org.
Welcome back to the Klamath Sports Network Underground Podcast. I'm Brandon Gailey, talking with you here this evening. Taking a look around the Oregon 4A, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to look specifically at the coaches poll. There has been a few changes within the coaches poll, but mainly the top 5 are still locked in. They're shuffling just a little bit. Marshfield, all year long, they've been ranked number 1. They're currently ranked 1 as well, followed by Cascade and then Estacada. And Marist round out the top 4. Mazama comes in the 5 spot. Banks is 6th. LeGrand 7. Tillamook in the 8 spot. Seaside 9. And Hidden Valley 10. Hidden Valley dropped 2 spots from 8 to 10. And Tillamook went up 2 spots from 10 to 8. That leads into this weekend, as a matter of fact. This weekend it is number 5 Mazama at number 10 Hidden Valley over there south of Grants Pass in Murphy. So if you're a Mazama fan and you're traveling over to Grants Pass to check out the game against Hidden Valley, a few things you might want to know about that facility. I too am not familiar with it. It's a former 3A school that's moved up to the 4A ranks. They were in the division last spring actually, for the spring league. Unfortunately, due to circumstances outside of everyone's control, Mazama and Hidden Valley didn't get a chance to meet up last year. So I reached out to an alum over there, Josh Eldridge, who is our friend from 960 Sports, is actually a graduate from Hidden Valley High School. So I asked him, what should we be aware of? What should we know? And he did tell us that the field is turf. There was a recent upgrade where Evergreen Federal had went in and done some work and redid pretty much the entire sports facility. But he does not know if the visitor bleachers have been taken care of. When he was there, they were a wooden bleacher. He does recommend bringing something to sit on as well. They're not the most comfortable bleachers out there. He also advised that the parking lot and the football field are not close together. It's a little walk. It's a downhill walk getting to the field. It'll be an uphill walk after the game. So be sure to be aware of that and plan accordingly. Also, it is very wind prone over there. So it could be very windy for the game. You want to dress in layers, take a blanket with you. Make sure you're dressed nice and warm. Bring your gloves and maybe even insulated socks and all the things you might need to stay warm over there in Grants Pass. It's not at the elevation that we see over here in the basin, but it is a bit more humid and it is a bit more windy, so it will be a bit chillier. So I want to thank Josh for giving us that information there. I had not been there. Have you been there? If you have, let us know in the comments below what we can expect. Now, taking a look at the Skyline Conference, as I said, this is a pretty key matchup. We talked about it with Coach. We talked about it a bit with Brandon. It's a pretty big game in the Skyline this week, as Hidden Valley and Mazama are both tied for first place. They're both 2-0 in conference play. Hidden Valley is 4-1 on the season, Mazama 4-2. Mazama has played a little bit of a tougher schedule, but give props to Hidden Valley. Their only loss comes by Banks. Mazama, as we're fully aware, has been playing outstanding this year. They're on a 3-game winning streak. The thing about this game, they're both tied for first. There's 2 more games after this week. Mazama is going to be facing arguably the 2 weakest teams in the Skyline, both Phoenix and Klamath Union. Phoenix for senior night, Klamath Union for the annual Canal Bowl. Those Phoenix will be at home. Klamath Union will be at Modoc Field for those games. I'm not going to chalk up a victory this early because you only have to be better than the team you're playing on the day you play them. So we're not going to count those victories before they hatch, but Hidden Valley has already played both of those schools. They defeated both of those schools handily. Hidden Valley, they're finishing their season with the 3 toughest schools in the conference. Mazama then Henley and North Valley. Actually, I believe it's Mazama, then North Valley, and then they wrap with Henley at home. When it comes to postseason, I know we're 3 weeks out. We're talking postseason already. Things are starting to line up a little bit. But what to be aware of is in the system that is set up in the Oregon 4A this year, the Skyline Conference will get 3 representatives into the 4A football tournament. Most likely that is your first, second, and third place teams. However, the league can decide who they want to have represent them. And really, right now, there's 4 teams vying for 3 spots: Hidden Valley, Mazama, Henley, and North Valley. Depending on how the season goes out, any of those schools can shift between now and then as to who's going to be on top, especially the number 2 and number 3 spot. You might find that somebody who has been in the tournament, in the brackets in the postseason in the last several years, may not actually make it this year because of the way the competition is stacked up in potentially the toughest conference in the Oregon 4A, having Hidden Valley, Mazama, Henley, and North Valley mixed in there. And Klamath Union and Phoenix, they're playing each other this weekend. One of those 2 schools is going to come away with their first win and will have momentum going into next week's game. They get a chance that they could play spoiler in here for one of those schools that they're facing in these coming weeks. Don't rule any of the games out over the next couple of weeks here as things get lined up for the postseason. Now, I mentioned it already. Number 5, Mazama, and number 10, Hidden Valley. Winner will be in sole possession of first place. Henley will be at North Valley. Klamath Union will be at Phoenix. And as I said, one of those 2 teams will get their first win of the season. So as we wrap up here today, I want to thank you and give appreciation to everyone that's listening and tuning in, liking, commenting, sharing, all that fun stuff. I greatly appreciate all of our fans out there. All the support, the messages that come in and thank me for doing what I'm doing. I thank you for doing what you do and in listening and helping out with what we've got going on here. If you'd like to do a little bit more, you can always become a KS Insider for just as little as $5 a month. You can listen to this podcast on Facebook, on YouTube, or anywhere that you like to get your podcasts. We're on Apple and Google and Spotify and Anchor and I don't know, half a dozen others as well. I do invite you to engage with our conversation by liking, commenting, and subscribing on any of those platforms. If there's a comment section, go ahead and write me a comment. Let me know what you think, what we're doing, how we're doing it. Or if not, if you're on one of those platforms that doesn't have any of that, give me an email at info@klamathsportsnetwork.com. I'd love to hear from you. On behalf of our guests here today, Coach Vic Lease, Brandon Gailey, I am Brian Gailey, and we will see you at the game.
Show your love. Head over now to Facebook and drop a like.
Want to see some more of us? Head over and meet us on Instagram.
This has been the KSN Underground Podcast with Brian Gailey. The podcast is a production of Klamath Sports Network. Join the game at klamathsports.net.